receive a copy of that recording and the slide deck via email later today. Greg Aden has 30 years of learning, sharing, and growing within the hospitality and financial services industries. His true gift is coaching and guiding others to find their sense of direction and purpose through key leadership principles. He is now following his clear passion by coaching, speaking, and inspiring others to find their true sense of purpose in leadership-steeped, mindful, and heart-led service. He started Aden Leadership to focus on the impact and influence of committed leaders and teams throughout organizations. Focusing on language, behavior, and relationships, Greg applies his transformational style of servant leadership coaching to create sustainable results. Greg, if you're ready, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Julie. Greetings from Denver, Colorado, everyone. As Julie mentioned, whether it's morning or afternoon, I appreciate you being here. I'll start out with an ask. My ask is that you ask yourself, what is it that you want out of the next 45 minutes to an hour? What would it do for you if you were to really be present and shut everything else down other than what you're looking at, and maybe a pen and paper to your right or left, depending on what side of the world you write on? And I ask that you do everything you can be to be present. I would like to start by saying, giving you some context of how I got here. My background is in front of you, and Julie read it, but I also wanted to make you aware that for the better part of my adult life, I've been competitive, driven, focused on results, financial gain, growing teams, and sales and development. It wasn't until I was asked to speak about how I was prolific, how I created records, broke records, won trophies, etc., that I dawned on me that I wasn't really selling, I was serving. I wasn't really telling people what they should buy, I was asking them what they wanted and how I could help them get there. In franchise sales and development with one of the world's largest hotel companies, you have opportunities to serve and you have opportunities to sell. And for 13.5 years, I did that more prolific than anyone in the industry. But then it was when I became a vice president, had my own team, I treated those regional directors as my clients instead of my subordinates. I led them, I coached them, I did not manage them. So for the last 3+ years, I've been building Aden Leadership on the framework of it's much more powerful to serve than to sell. It's much more powerful to ask than to tell. So I just wanted you to get a little bit more familiar with who is the guy on the other end of the microphone. So why servant leadership? Where does it come from? And why is it so important today, especially today? Why servant leadership? I would tell you that I don't know of a more powerful form of leadership. There are thousands of books on leadership, and typically there's an adjective in front of leadership, which could be strengths-based, intentional. The one that I've gravitated towards was servant leadership, because serving another human being is, in my opinion, one of the highest things and one of the best ways we can share our time with others. Where does it come from? Well, honestly, it comes from the Bible. I'm not a religious man of sorts. I'm a spiritual guide, if you will. But I know that in the Bible there's all sorts of examples of how servant leadership came to be. But most notably for me and my studies of this, it started back with my study of Robert Greenleaf, who made servant leadership not only popular, but acceptable. And soon people like myself and others have adopted it as the most powerful form of leadership. And why is it so important, period? But most importantly, why is it important today? Engagement with millennials, engagement with the elderly, engagement with those who have wisdom and don't know how to share it, the ability to attract talent and keep talent. That's all reasons why servant leadership is so critical. So I'm going to share with you a variety of things today, and I hope that you will take away. I honestly believe that the principles of leadership are applicable immediately because of what they focus on. I'm going to ask you questions throughout the webinar as if you're in front of me. And I'd like for you to ask yourself the answer, or answer those questions to the best of your ability. And then we can talk about those in the Q&A. We're going to talk about the unleashing of the power of courageous conversations. And in my opinion, it's the epitome of what makes a servant leader a servant leader. And then ROI to most means return on investment. I want to make money. My company wants to make money. We need a profit. I get that. Money is an output or an outcome of how you show up. So what I focus on in my coaching and consulting is, what is your return on intention? And not to be cute, but to actually be very specific of what I want to talk about. And intention are the things that you do that you focus on that are most important to you. And to me, that starts with engagement. So just the context of leadership. As I mentioned, it's been around a long time. And several of you have seen this slide perhaps. But it's, if you are inspiring others, you help them dream, you help them learn more, then in my opinion, and only then are you a true leader. And that was John Quincy Adams. It's been around a long time. For me, it comes down to having a positive impact on people, helping them with their influence. I'm trying to, there we go. But the key is inspiration. How do you inspire others? And do you? Servant leadership is a philosophy and a set of principles that enriches the lives of individuals, builds better organization, and ultimately creates a more just and caring world. And if you just focus on the middle part, enriches the lives of individuals and builds better organizations, ask yourselves, as business owners or leaders or influencers in your organizations, what's most important? Is it money? Is it the lives of the people on your team? That's something I would ask you to ask yourself immediately. And are you building a better organization for yourself as an owner? Or are you building a better organization as a leader and as an influencer? And if so, what does that look like? Servant leader is all about serving first. It begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve first. Key word for me there is want. I focus on wants much more than I do the needs. And when you hear someone say, I need that, depending on your relationship with them, ask them if they need that or if they want that. What's most valuable to someone is that they're following what's most important to them, what they want. So if you want to serve, you will. For me, it kind of starts and stops right there. Here are the principles. We could literally spend all afternoon on these, or all morning, depending on where you are. But in brief, here they are. For me, it starts and stops with integrity. I am my word. And that means all of your word, all of the time. Integrity gets thrown around like a variety of things in our world. But if you really listen to what you say, how you say it, and the meaning you put behind your word, you'll understand exactly where you stand in most relationships. And you can't always be your word. I get that. You can't always be exactly where you said you were going to be. Things happen. Life happens. So when you can't be your word, the best thing to do is to clean up your word, and as quickly as possible. I am sorry will never go out of style. I apologize, period. Don't make reasons and excuses for why you couldn't honor your word. Just own it and move forward. No one really cares, do we, why you're late? Especially when you call 5 minutes after the fact and tell somebody you're running late. Some of you are smiling because you own that behavior, and some of you are gritting your teeth because you know too many people in your life that exercise that behavior. So my question to you is, if you own some of that behavior, how can you clean up your word? And if you allow, and I mean that sincerely, if you allow those relationships to have that kind of integrity within their relationship with you, why do you allow it? Accountability. For me, it's all down to one thing. You're responsible for everything. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions. If we think about the core of how we say things or why we say things, it comes from a belief system. If we think about how we end up doing something, it's because we had the thought first. So I know you've all probably heard this before, but if we just stop and pause and slow down for a little bit and think about what it is we really want to achieve right now, what do we want in this relationship, today, going forward, etc. And I mean any relationship, partner, children, bosses, employees, etc. Listen to others. Listen for their language around, I think I can, I might be able to, I should be able to. Okay, let me think about it. That's not an accountable person. That's someone who's thinking about whether they want to commit to something or not. Courage. Key element is fear. We all have fear for some reason. We all have them. Whether it's speaking, dying, taxes. Some people think there's someone in their closet or under their bed. Their fear of loss. And all those could be real for you. My question for you this morning is, which of these fears are real? I mean, they honestly exist, and which are just stories that you make up. And perhaps you've been making up for years and years. If you don't identify what your fears are, you can't remove them. It's impossible. They just continue to repeat. So instead of focusing on fear, you'll notice the principle I focus on is courage. Just being courageous. Things aren't going well. Do you panic, or do you continue to walk through it? Do you ask for a pause? Do you take a break? Do you recoil and then go back? Or do you just get soaked into fear and perhaps self-pity and quit? Again, some of you are smiling because you own this behavior, and some of you are gritting your teeth because you allow relationships in your life that are full of fear, and you continue looking at them as to, why can't they? How should I? And you want to serve them and you want to help them. But the best thing you can do is ask them, what are their fears? Passion. This is not being a cheerleader. It's not being excitable. It's not jumping up and down, waving your arms, having people follow you. It's purposeful passion. It's passion driven by a direction. Passion driven by a vision. And if you're a leader and an owner of a company, I think you know exactly where I'm coming from. They will follow you, whether you're passionate or not to a certain degree, but they will not follow you if they don't understand and believe in your vision. Now, how do you add passion to asking someone to support you and follow you? That's servant leadership. We'll get to that. Humility. It means a lot of things to a lot of different people. For me, it boils down to this. Just be humble. Be empathetic. Be compassionate. Well, Greg, I've got a business to run. I've got a family to run. I understand that, and so do I. And my favorite question I ask my clients is, what else do you want to talk about? Are you being compassionate? Are you being empathetic? So my question for you is, and I want you to write this one down if you would, is, when did you eat your first piece of humble pie? For me, it was 1992. I was approximately 30 years old. I left Marriott Corporation after 8 years thinking I was a lot of things, some of the adjectives you can imagine, and then I fell off my proverbial horse. And I recognized for the first time I didn't have it all together, and I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to go. And this new organization wasn't serving me the way I had been served before, or had been anointed or appeased before, perhaps, is what I was really trying to understand, but back then I had no idea. So ask yourself, when did you eat that first warm or cold piece of humble pie? Number 6, vulnerability. This is the one that people struggle with the most. It's not number 6 because it's least important. It's number 6 because it's very difficult for us to get our hearts and our hands around and our heads around. Why is it difficult? Intimacy in general is scary to most people. Intimacy, into me you see. That's the difficulty. A lot of us are excellent at asking questions, getting to know someone else. Where do you come from? What's really important to you? What do you want out of this job? How much money do you want to make? What kind of relationships are you? That's easy. Those are great questions. But how many of you on this webinar right now believe that you've mastered intimacy, meaning you have allowed others into yourself to be seen? And I'm not saying you have to wake up tomorrow and walk around with an open heart and beg people to see inside of you. My question is this: how often do you think about how vulnerable you're really being? And vulnerability doesn't mean just blabbing everything that's really deep and important to you. It's about being open and honest. And the word I've highlighted here for you this morning is authentic. You don't have to say anything, but what you do say should be authentic. Where's your service leadership? Are you open to feedback? One would say that if you're a self-serving leader, you don't need or want feedback. If you're a servant leader, you encourage feedback. And how do you do that? Every day, all day, by asking people, how am I doing? How may I help you? Which is one question, or one question I'd like you to consider putting into your way of being is, how may I serve you? How can I help you is, can I? How may I serve you is, I know I can, and I know I will, but I'm asking you, I'm prepared, so how may I serve you? Sounds odd a little bit perhaps, but write it down and play with it and see what's real for you. Ask your followers how they feel about your leadership. Now, a self-serving leader, as I mentioned earlier, already knows. He or she will basically say without saying it, their actions speak louder than their words, by saying, I know I'm a great leader, just ask me. But that's not servant leadership. Ask your followers how they feel about your leadership. And again, you don't have to take them to lunch or dinner or breakfast. You can just have a conversation around, how am I doing? How can I show up more powerfully for you? What are some of the things in my leadership that you'd like more of or less of? Now, is this a review, Greg? Don't we do this once a year? I'm supposed to have a performance appraisal review with my employees, and at that time these conversations come up. Do they? Do you honestly ask your employees and other people in your organization how you can become a better leader? A lot of people will ask, what's the benefit of servant leadership? This, right here. First of all, focusing on yourself as a leader, a true leader, not a dictator, not a force field, and not an arrogant you-know-what. True leaders understand that leadership is not about them, but about those they serve. It is not about exalting themselves, but uplifting, or about lifting others up. Period. It's not about you. And as I like to say to some of my clients and people I come in contact with, get over yourself. We know you're pretty. We know you're handsome. We know you're wealthy. We know you're powerful. What else do you want to talk about? How do you really want to serve the organization that you telling the world is so important to you? Who are you being is reflected through your language and behavior. How many of you listen to yourself and then ask yourself, oh my gosh, how did I just say that? Or do you take a moment and recognize that how you speak and how you behave is really who you are, or as I like to say, who you be? Some of you may know Coach John Wooden, one of the most successful college basketball coaches of all time. Until recently, the coach of the women's program in Connecticut, but he won 7 national championships in the span of 10 years back in the 70s. And yes, I love the 70s. Yes, I love John Wooden, not because of his championships, not because of his winning, but the way he coached and the way he led and the way he educated the young men in his life and everyone in his life since. Be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is who you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. If you've been tuning in at all at some level, your reputation serves the self-serving leader. Everyone thinks I'm wonderful. Everyone is telling me I'm great. A reputation is important, but your character is critical. Leadership roles. Take a quick peek at this slide and identify with a few of them. In most cases, you could probably find 5 or 6 that apply to you, regardless of gender. We all have several roles that we play in life to begin with. And ironically, most of those roles we play in life are also leadership roles. As I mentioned, my belief is we're all leaders. It just depends on what role you want to focus on and how important that relationship is to you. As a 54, soon-to-be 55-year-old man, I'm blessed to have a 5 and a 7-year-old in my life. They have taught me a considerable amount about being a leader through parenting, being patient, being present. I don't know where you are with your relationships with your children, if you have any, but that's one thing that has been really, really fulfilling and rewarding to me. These are great questions for you if you take nothing else away from the time we have together this morning. Ask yourself the most, or fill in these blanks I should say, the most fulfilling and rewarding is, this is pertaining to your leadership role. Pick one, as a partner, as a mother, as a father, as a leader, as an owner, as a peer, as an accountability partner. The most fulfilling and rewarding is what? What part of that? I am frustrated the most by, or what I'm most fearful of is, again, that particular role you're talking about. I want to be appreciated for and acknowledged for is. So imagine if you took 5 minutes at the end of this webinar or before you went to sleep tonight and you honestly asked these questions, and then you brought them to the leadership team in the next day or 3. Not your answers, but these questions, and said, hey, I listened to this goofball on this webinar the other day around servant leadership. And what I took away from it is we all have different leadership roles, but I wanted you, team, group, to think about these questions and these opportunities to fill in the blanks. Give them some space, come back together, and then share your responses to these questions, your responses to these sentences, and ask them to do the same. Ask them to do the same. If they don't wish to share, they don't wish to share. Depending on who they are in your life, I guarantee you the majority of them will want to share. Because I don't believe in the last year or so they've been asked by anybody who really cares about them these questions. And you could be that person. Or if you are already, you can continue to make a significant imprint on their life. Courageous conversations. Well, hopefully you can tell by now I'm not for the meek and mild. I'm not for those who like to hide. But I'm not going to get into your face as well, because I don't really care about the head as much as I care about the heart and the soul. And that's what I mean by everything starts with being courageous inside you. What are you afraid of? Where do you hide and why? What don't you want anyone to know about you? Now, I'm not asking you to type up your secrets and send them to someone who doesn't know you. I'm asking you to be courageous with yourself about trying new things, speaking in a way that serves others versus just yourself. And if you apply servant leadership and not appeasement, up-leveling these relationships that really mean a lot to you is possible. What do I mean by appeasement? Just by definition, the word appeasement is to placate or give to others. And oftentimes we appease people just to make them feel better, but we don't mean it. We do it out of repetition. We do it as a favor to them. But ladies and gentlemen, you're not doing anyone a favor if you're appeasing them. Even your children, based on age, you can continue to pick up their room. You can continue to do their laundry. You can continue to put their shoes away. You can continue to pick up their plates, etc. And again, this is your style of parenting, but how does it apply to other places in your life when instead of being courageous about something you want from a relationship, you hide and don't tell them what it is you want and need from them, and you continue to appease them because you're afraid to speak up? Servant leadership allows you the ability to be courageous first and then say, time out, Tom, or time out, Tina. This isn't working. You're always talking about this and that, and you don't seem interested in me. I'm interested in you. And here's how I'd like to make some shifts in the way we relate. Now, someone who's afraid or doesn't want to get vulnerable is going to have one or two different reactions. But I ask you, if these relationships aren't serving you and your growth, whether it's personal or professional, why are these relationships in your life? And you might be thinking, well, you just described my spouse, or you just described my mom or my dad. You're right, we can't choose those people. But for the majority of the people in our life, we decide every day how we want to be with them. What do you really wish to share? What do you really wish to do? And same question around communicate. Are you being real with what you're asking for? Or again, is it bordering on just taking care of somebody, appeasing them and not really challenging them? And isn't it okay to challenge people every once in a while? Challenge their thoughts, not their core beliefs perhaps, depending on your relationship, even that's okay. But just, did you really mean that? Is that what you really want to do? And if they are caught in their tracks and have to stop, and you're the one that asks them to really consider what's important to them, how are you going to show up in their life going forward? But is that something you really wish to do? Do you really wish to share your heart? Maybe not. Maybe so, but not right now. You get to decide how you want to apply servant leadership into your life, your relationships, and your work. And this is fairly straightforward, but for some of us, including me, now and certainly before these last few years, don't overthink the what. Simply feel the why and the wow, or the how. It's easy to stay in our head, and a lot of us spend way too much time up there. We get heady, we stay in strategy, we don't feel, or we don't focus on our why. So what is your why? Why do you do what you do? Money, prestige, reputation, awards, recognition? Or do you do it for family? Do you do it because you're a purpose-driven individual? Because you enjoy giving back? Because this company means everything to you, and when it gets to a certain size, you hope someone buys it. The people in your company mean everything to you, and so do the relationships. What is it that really drives you? What is your why? And if you haven't listened to, or you're not familiar with Simon Sinek, he has one of the best YouTubes in this particular area. It's called It Starts With Why, or the Golden Circle. And great companies have adopted this over the years, and many leaders that I know, it comes from their why, their center, their heart, their soul, whatever that center is for you. We talked about ROI in the beginning, and I addressed what I know is important to a lot of us, and that is return on investment. A lot of you have made a significant investment with your time, your blood, your sweat, your tears, your money, perhaps someone else's money. I get it. I know what EBITDA is. I know what NOI is. I know gross operating. I know it. I've been there. But that's an output of who you're being. It's an output of your beliefs and how you follow them. And money, just like a powerful relationship, starts with, what is your focus? What are you truly focused on? And I don't know about all of you, but I would bet you that if you really, really got true to yourself, you would answer this, you would believe in this, that you can only focus on one thing at a time. And if you're one of those that are grinning saying, no, I'm one of the best multitaskers there are you the person that drives down the street with a cup of coffee in between your legs, putting your mascara on, or on the phone with one hand, driving with your knees so you can talk with your other hand? That's not multitasking, by the way. That's just pure ignorance. What I'm talking about is a person who thinks that they can be attentional with somebody while they're on the phone, while they're listening to their child and they're sending an email, while you believe you're being present and the person's looking at you and not saying a word other than, Dad, are you there? Honey, are you with me? Board of directors, do I have your attention? Look around. Look around the people that are in your life on a daily basis and ask yourself, are they truly focused? And do you really believe you understand what their intention is? I'm going to recommend something really wild and crazy here. If you're not sure, ask them. Hey, Bob. Hey, Julie. Hey, Stephanie, where's your focus right now? I'm sorry, Greg, I'm somewhere else. I'm sorry, Greg, I wasn't listening. I'm sorry, Greg, you're really not that important to me. I'm sorry, Julie, I've heard this before. Okay, let's pretend you have heard it before. What of the first time are you applying? You can always go deeper with the questions if you'd like. Are you challenging someone to be more focused on you? No. You're challenging their focus on what they said is important to them. Write down these two questions if you're a leader at all, or you have the pleasure and the honor of leading other people. Ask them, what do you want? What do you really want? And then just shut up and listen. And then ask the follow-up question. What are you willing to do to get there? Or to get it if it's something they want to obtain? And if you can just get another human being to really focus on what their intention is, it could be for the day, it could be for the week. Those of you in sales and development, it could be their quota for the quarter, their annual. I really want to hit 12 deals this year. I really want to have 24 really deep relationships with our most important customers. I really want to make sure that the people in my department understand who I really am and where I'm going. Okay, great. Now what are you willing to do to get there? Is it to study? Is it to research? Is it to take a speaking class? Is it to show up earlier? Is it to not have your phone in your hand when you're pretending to have a conversation with another human being? Come on, guys. I want you to count the number of times just the end of this week when you're having a conversation with someone and or you're looking at your phone, or they're doing the same to you. And whether you're the boss or not, how does the other person feel when they can see the top of your head versus your eyes when you're speaking to them, or you think you're listening? What does this have to do with servant leadership? Everything. I guarantee you, if you survey your company and ask them what's the most important thing to leadership, period, regardless of what adjective's in front of it, leading by example. What example are you providing the other people in your company as you lead them every day? Are you asking them to follow you? Are you expecting them to follow you because you're blank blank in your title? And honestly, I don't care if you're an owner. You're a leader first. And I'm asking you to be a servant leader. What does being engaged look like? What does it feel like? I don't know, Greg. I haven't been engaged in a while. And whether you're married or not, most of us have been engaged at one point. We ask someone to be engaged with us. Do you ask them to be engaged with you? And if you're not sure, ask the people that are really important to you. What would an engaged relationship look like? Is this too soft for you? Do you not see the benefits? You can't imagine having some of these conversations? Then practice with some people who get you or understand where you want to go. And as far as your company is concerned, how important is engagement? It's not important because, why? Why wouldn't engagement be important to you? The number one reason people stay with a company, not the 5 reasons people leave, is engagement. They feel appreciated. They feel recognized. They feel heard. Well, they know they're heard. They know they're appreciated. They know they're recognized by who? You, the leader, or others that lead them under you or next to you. Engagement is critical. And let's assume you believe me for a second. Who's measuring this critical metric? Who's measuring engagement? How do you measure engagement? First of all, make sure that there's a clear definition of what engagement is. You can't measure something that you can't define. You certainly can't measure something that doesn't exist. Survey your company about one topic, engagement. Not going to do anything wild and crazy. We just want to know, what does engagement mean to everybody, how important it is, and what will we do? Not what can we do, but what will we do to up-level engagement? Just 3 or 4 simple questions. I can help you write a survey. There's plenty of engagement surveys out there. You don't need to hire anybody at $1,000 an hour to get this done. It's a leader sitting back and scratching his or her head and asking themselves, is engagement truly important to our or my organization? And if not, why not? You'll get some really cool ideas from people who want to be more engaged but aren't, just because they don't believe you are or leadership isn't. If he or she isn't, then why should I? If they don't come in early, why should I? If they don't walk by my desk and say, other than, how you doing, why should I be engaged? Just leave me alone, let me do my work. But those people will not be around for very long. That I can assure you. It's not about money. Yes, you have to pay more people or different people more money at certain times because you understand the ultimate value they bring your company. But at some point, even those people who say I need and want more money are replaceable because someone else will just go ahead and pay them more money. So let's review here. The principles of leadership that we discussed was integrity, accountability, courage, passion, humility, and vulnerability. Ask yourself, score yourself, how do you believe you are doing in each of those areas? Simple one. Do I honor my word? Most of the time, some of the time, all the time. Just be honest. And if not, why not? And even when you can't, and that's could be anything, right? Could be a home issue, could be a life issue, could be someone in the hospital. If you can't honor your word, clean it up as soon as possible. Accountability, just be responsible for all. Your thoughts drive your behaviors, and your behaviors help lead your relationships. And the last one on that one I'll mention is courage. It's recognizing, identifying, owning, and almost enjoying your fear to a point where You laugh at it because you know it's just a story. It's not real. And then where are you in self-leadership? It's the same kind of thing. Take a minute and just think about it. How do you really show up? I've got a great exercise. It's a really fun exercise. It's called How Do I Occur? You ask two questions. One of yourself. What are the 10 to 12 qualities that I believe describes me, defines me? What attributes really describe me? And then you select 7, 8, 9, 10 people and you ask them the same questions. No, it's not a Briggs-Meyer or Myers-Briggs or 360 or a DISC. It's a simple ask. How do I occur to you? And I'll get in deeper detail with that if anyone's interested. Julie can share my email, and I'd be happy to send it out via tab. It's just a beautiful exercise. And then unleash the power of courageous conversations. Just decide, I'm going to be more courageous with my asks of others. Not only for them to do things, but I'm going to ask them to do things for me. And all they can say, guys, is no. No, thank you. Heck no. You know what? No. That's fine. You're still going to wake up tomorrow morning. You're still going to put on your pants the same way. You're still going to have teeth to brush. You're not going to die if you hear no. But let me remind you of this. You will get 100% of everything you don't ask for. You want a higher return on intention? Then start being engaged. Just be engaged. Truly. Be open. Be authentic. Start really caring about other human beings around you and watch how they will follow you. Watch how they will become more powerful. And it's all because of you. You as a servant leader. I'll read this. Thank you. I want you to all know that I truly appreciate it. The time we had. I hope there's tons of questions, and if not, let me leave you with this. Your commitment and attention to these principles will allow shifts in your language and behavior, creating more powerful relationships. No matter how you define success, servant leadership will support your personal and professional development. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Greg. We certainly appreciate you coming and presenting for us today. And as he mentioned, I will certainly give you his email. His website is up there, and it is just Greg, G-R-E-G, @aidenleadership.com. And we do have a couple of questions here. First one is back when you were talking on the courageous conversations, you had made the comment about you don't really care what's inside someone's head, you're concerned about the heart. And the question was, wouldn't it be wise maybe to have both of those aligned, the head and the heart and everything aligned?
Yes, of course, there's alignment in all areas of our life, our whole life, as I like to say. But what I getting to with that statement is there's thoughts that permeate everything that we're going through at the moment, and we're up in our head. We're not being emotional. We're not feeling. So if you really want to get courageous, you need to find out, why is the way he or she is acting really affecting me? Is it in my head, or is it a core belief? Am I insecure? Am I jealous? Am I not sure about my power? Am I fearing loss? Typically, those things are at our core belief. They're in our hearts and our souls. And then when they get to our head, we tend to make quick comments or quick decisions.
Okay, thank you. Another one was, I'm most interested in the real ROI, that making a profit. How would servant leadership really help the bottom line for my company?
Beautiful. First of all, it eliminates blind spots. But most efficiently, or most importantly, it makes our relationships more efficient. By building trust, you spend more time on core issues and core values. If there is no trust, or there's lack of fellowship, if you will, a lot of time gets wasted either rebuilding trust or spending time on things that don't really matter. So just by being more efficient at work, or if you think about it in terms of your relationship at home, you can get more things done. And more things done that are applied to what we need to do in order to serve clients, serve one another, and make more money, just by being more efficient, equates to a better bottom line. And that is simply said, if you're more efficient, you'll spend less time on things that aren't important. And if you can spend more time on things that are critical, you can serve more people and you can make more money.
Okay, great. We've got another one here. Again, if you do have a question for Greg, just type it into that question box and we'll certainly get to it. So I'm interested in actually applying servant leadership in my company, but what's the best way for me to get started with that?
Great question. And I would say that I have given you several examples, but first of all, I would write down the principles of leadership and score yourself. And focus on your strengths. I am my word. I am a man or I'm a woman of my word. If you score high in that area, continue to be your word. But what I want you to do is be aware of your weaknesses or your areas of opportunity, or maybe even your blind spots. So just scoring yourself on the principles is critical. Another way to apply it immediately is to get a group of people around you who would ask you, hey, what are you working on? I'm working on being a better leader. I'm working on being a more powerful woman. I'm working on up-leveling my relationships. Just going through the how do I occur exercise would give you a significant amount of self-awareness of how people perceive you, not your reputation, but perceive you as a man and woman of character. And if things that are coming up that don't serve you, meaning you're late, you're sarcastic, you're not authentic, if those show up in some of the people's responses, and yes, if you're asking the right people that will, they will, then you can make those shifts because now you're aware. That's number 2. Number 3 is to just figure out what it is that you're truly focused on and where you spend your attention. And if the people around you and the relationships that mean most to you, and I mean home and work, don't come up in the top 3 or 4, ask yourself, what can you do to really shift your intention to serve people versus just accumulating things and or making money? So it starts, Julie, with asking yourself, where are you? And is servant leadership even important? And if it is, what part of serving first, leading second don't I understand yet? There's just dozens and dozens of articles and books that will give you insight, and that's what I'm asking you to look for is insight.
All right, great, thank you. One final question. What would you say are some of the benefits of servant leadership, especially in comparison to other styles of leadership?
Thank you. Great question. There's a lot of other styles, as I alluded to in the very beginning, but it deepens trust. It provides an opportunity for deeper trust. It deepens relationships, and it up-levels loyalty. So if you're a business owner who wants to keep great employees, think about how you can serve them authentically first and then lead them. That's a huge benefit. Another one is it builds engagement. By how you show up, people will automatically be more attracted to a person who is, not appears to be, but is very interested in not only their success, but their overall well-being. And for some of you, you're not going to like this, but you don't drive without mirrors, but you do so so you can see what you can't see. And servant leadership, through every facet that I am aware of, helps to eliminate blind spots. Things that are not known to you but seen and known by others. Areas of scarcity. Eliminating blind spots is a huge benefit of servant leadership.
All All right, perfect. Well, once again, Greg's email is greg@aidenleadership.com. So if you do have any questions that we didn't get to today, please feel free to reach out to Greg and talk to him. You can check out all of our previous BOSS webinars that we have done on demand by visiting our website and clicking on webinars. And thank you guys very much for joining us today. We certainly appreciate you being here, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Julie.